please. 293, Come to Jesus Today, is the song of invitation.
Good afternoon and welcome to the South End Church of Christ. What our brother Chester said, again, either anytime during or at the end, feel free that if you feel the need, if you feel the call to obey the gospel, you can always just raise your hand, interrupt me, come on up here, and we'll get you baptized and put you into the kingdom. The Lord will accept you, wash your sins away, and add you to the roll, and we'll all rejoice, including the angels and the host of heaven. Amen. So just know that that's always available to you. I even turned up the water in the baptistry, so it should be a little bit warmer. Got a question for you. Have you ever been hungry? I mean like hungry. Not just like, what I want to snack on. But like, I don't know if I'm going to make it. I am hungry. I imagine that at my worst, I've been pretty hungry. I've gone maybe a few days without eating in the military, but with a lot of physical activity. But I cannot imagine 40 days. 40 days just seems like a really long time to not have anything to eat. So I bring this up, and again, this is one of three famous examples. We're going to talk about that a little bit later in the lesson about an extended fast. And this afternoon's lesson is about fasting. It was put in the little box there in the back, suggested the question was more about fasting. So I will say right off the bat, I am not a practitioner, I'm not a physician, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a registered dietitian, I'm not a nutritionist. I was a combat medic in the United States Army. I played a doctor in Iraq, but I wasn't one. So I was about as much of a doctor as Doogie Howser, and if you get this reference, good for you. Maybe the more newer version of that is House. But what I have done is I have spent, I don't know, hon, what do you think, several hundred hours researching and listening to and watching and reading about nutrition and exercise. In fact, I'm spending, the U.S. government is spending a whole lot of money. Again, I'm Army, so using folk rehab. They're spending a lot of money for me to get a degree in exercise science and nutrition. It's going to be my minor. And so that's my bona fides. Also, for those at home and for those that haven't known me for the past decade, when I came back from Iraq and I was combat wounded and I was sent to the WTU, I wasn't able to walk. I couldn't use my right leg. They also happened to put me on lots of steroids. They put me on medicines that were anti-epileptics. They put me on blood pressure medication. They put me on cholesterol medication. They put me on antipsychotic medication. They put me on every single medication they could possibly put me on. Depression medication, anxiety medication. If there was a medication, I was on it. I was probably at any one particular time over 30 different medications. It's where they got the meme, the shirt, the hat that says, veteran medicated for your protection. The Army just said, let's throw everything at this guy because he's wounded and let's see what sticks. And what stuck was the gaining of about 150, 175 pounds. So I went from, being, somewhere around, I think I was probably about 165 when I came back from combat because I was starving. Normally I would be around 185. And so I ended up being around about 300 pounds. If you're just listening and you're not watching, I'm not 300 pounds now. I've actually gained weight, muscle weight that I've added on. So I think I got back down to my lowest somewhere around in the 160s, 162, 165. And now I'm at a comfortable body homeostasis of around 185. I'm not trying to put on too much muscle. I don't want to be Lou Ferrigno, the Hulk. I just want to be healthy. So I do know a lot about eating and not eating. And so I'm going to probably have the most unique perspective on a lesson on fasting that you will ever hear in your entire life, or that any other evangelist would ever preach on fasting. So that being said, I cannot say everything that I would want to say about fasting, because again, just like they said with Jesus, there's not enough paper, not enough volumes to cover everything that he has done. There's not enough time that you have available in your life for me to say everything that I would like to say about eating, exercise, and not eating. But if you are interested and you want to know more, absolutely reach out to me. Reach out to me on the Google and send me an email. Send a comment on the YouTube comment section for this channel, for this video. I'd be happy to try to answer those questions. And again, would happy to be walking you through my journey and help you with your journey on to health. So fasting, it's a controversial topic, and there's a lot of misconceptions about it. Again, I'm taking a lot of nutrition classes, and I've actually changed the mind of some of the registered dietitians that have taught me, and they have changed their perceptions about fasting and about things to eat, about certain vitamins and minerals, and even cholesterol itself. The thing is about science, it's always changing. In fact, if you were to just, Google something about food, and you were to go through the years on what to eat, what not to eat. Eggs, superfood. One day, eggs kill you the next day. Erythritol, great, for sugar replacement. The next day, causes heart attacks. Come on. If we gave up every single food that at some point they said was bad for us, I don't know what we would eat. What? Lettuce? Maybe they've never said lettuce is bad for us. I don't know. I'm probably sure you could find somebody. When I was in Iraq, I got into a debate with a captain who graduated from West Point, who used to call me Kentucky, because I was from, guess where, Kentucky. And he thought that I wasn't very smart. And so he called a tomato a vegetable. And I was like, no, it's a fruit. And he went round and round with me on that. And I thought it was over. Clear cut. No, that guy went back to his chew when we got back to our little fob. And he researched and found some sort of article that somebody wrote in the 1800s where they called a tomato a vegetable. And he said, see here, it could have been colloquially called a vegetable. And I'm like, come on, man. So no matter who you are or what you're talking about, whatever the science is, there are going to be some people that are going to say, I really like this science, and I'm not going to let it go. And I'm going to hold on to this to the grave. And then the other people, they're just like, hey, look, some new, shiny science. I'm going to follow this and flutterly thing and go wherever it leads. I'm going to cast out all known history, everything that we know. What is a woman? And I'm going to just look, if we're an evolutionist, we believe billions of years there have only been two genders, and now yesterday there's 72. So I'm going to have a unique perspective on this, and I'm going to talk about things that I know that are scientific, absolutely. We're going to talk a little bit about fasting, but kind of why I want to even bring in the science and the benefits to fasting is because some of the issues that people have with fasting. And a lot of, again, misconceptions with it. That's just that religious thing. That's a cultural thing. You're superstitious, or that's irrational. Even us in the church. I don't know, maybe you've heard this too. You be at a fellowship gathering and everybody's, having fun, eating pizza, barbecue, chili, whatever, and someone says, yeah, I fast often, and when I do, it's really fast. And it's like, I don't care for fasting because I like food too much. It's like, fasting never did anything for me, And it's like, okay, all right, I got it. I'm not saying that you have to fast, but I'm going to challenge you on some things, even your conceptions of what fasting actually is. But we're biblical people. We're Christians. We're Christ-like. Christ-like, we do things like Christ would do and did. also stand for the things that he stands for, and we don't belittle the things that he did. And so biblical things we should not belittle, make smaller than what they are. So let's get right into it. That thing over to the right was supposed to be popping up later, but it's up there right now, so you got it. Questions to consider. Why do we eat? Why do I eat the way that I eat? Why do I eat the things that I eat? Mostly because they taste good, right? That's most people's answer. What is a fast? Why do I fast? Or why do I not fast? To fast or not to fast? That is the question. Is fasting cultural, religious, irrational, outdated, dangerous? By the way, I will tell you this. If you fast and you don't start eating, it is 100% fatal. So there you go. It is dangerous. Fasting can be dangerous. If you stop eating totally and never eat again, you will die. So there, I've dispelled that myth. It absolutely is dangerous. So, now there's a lot of stuff covered by food in the Bible. Genesis chapter 9 verse 3. Going back to the very beginning, even in the garden, he made everything for us. In Genesis chapter 9 verse 3, every moving thing that lives shall be food for you. 1 Timothy chapter 4 verses 4 through 5. For every creature of God is good, and nothing is to be refused if it is received with thanksgiving. For it is sanctified by the word of God and prayer. So, kind of a topic for another day, a discussion for another day. But guess what? Every critter under God's sun is good to eat. If you like it, you can eat it, you can eat it. Okay? Now granted, I'm not going to say that we should treat animals poorly. I try to eat animals that were humanely raised before I eat them. But every living thing we can eat. Okay? So it's not evil to eat chicken. It's not evil to eat a cow. I'm going to go on a limb here. It's not evil to eat a cat. But my wife would kill me if I did, because we got 5 of them. So I'm not going to do that. But I'm just saying, it's not evil. It might be distasteful, but it's not evil. I don't know, there would be very much meat on a cat, so I wouldn't do that. But I'm just saying. Matthew chapter 6. We're also, therefore, do not worry, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? Guess what? Also, our Heavenly Father knows that we have need of these things. And all of these things, if we seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, all these things will be provided for us. So we'll have our food. David said, I was once young and now I'm old. I've never seen the righteous forsaken or their children begging bread. You put God first in your life, you're going to have something to eat. It's just the way that it works. Because God's going to take care of it. He takes care of all of His creation. He feeds the birds. He feeds the cows. He feeds the cats. Sometimes He uses, people to do that. He uses my wife to feed all the cats in the neighborhood. Utilizes his children to take care of others. Also, important, 1 Corinthians chapter 8, verses 8 through 13. Food does not commend us to God, for neither if we eat are we the better, nor if we do not eat are we the worse. Therefore, if food makes my brother stumble, I will never again eat meat, lest I make my brother stumble. So, again, I'm not moralizing food here. I'm not saying that if you eat sugar, it's a sin, but if you eat grass-fed, finished beef, that's morally righteous. In the context of 1 Corinthians chapter 8, they're talking about things were offered to idols, and whether or not that bothered their conscience. And again, if there's a food source on this planet, no matter how much I even like it, if it was going to cause a brother or sister in Christ to fall away, I'm going to give it up. I'll eat something else. Okay? Because there ain't no food. I like cookies. So please no one stumble because of cookies. But there ain't no food that's good enough, healthy enough, tasty enough for me to indulge in if it's going to cause someone to lose their everlasting soul. So again, not moralizing food. All right? What is food? This right here, this is not how a cell looks in your body. This is a graphical representation. And again, you're going to find some links. I'm going to post these slides so you can click on these links. And there's some stuff in the notes here. What is food? Scientifically speaking, food is called a substrate. And you've got three different types: fat, protein, carbohydrates. And these are the kcals, 9, 4, and 4. This is what a kcal is, kilocalorie. Okay? When you eat these things, your body takes these things, breaks them down, and makes adenosine triphosphate, ATP. Without ATP, you're dead. Every single cell of your body utilizes ATP. Now, there's two forms. There's anaerobic metabolism. That happens in the systole of the cell. That's outside of the mitochondria. And then you have aerobic metabolism. That happens only inside the mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell. All the kids that have been in high school the past 10, 15 years will know that one. Powerhouse of the cell. So this is aerobic, anaerobic, and without oxygen, aerobic with oxygen, so aerobic. So, and again, anaerobic, you can only use glucose or glycogen. You can't use fats for anaerobic, but aerobic you can use fats, you can use proteins. Proteins gets a little complex when we're talking about how to use proteins, but we can use proteins for fuel. To define fasting, any period of time where calories are not being consumed. So guess what? You're fasting right now. Unless you're eating. If you're eating at home, you're not fasting. Okay? Every time you don't eat, you're in a period of not consuming calories. So every time you go to sleep, guess what you're doing? You're fasting. And every time you wake up and you get yourself some bacon and eggs, having breakfast, break fast. That's where that word comes from. You're breaking your fast. So if you're over 40 and your doctor has said, hey, look, I want to get a cholesterol test on you, or I want to get some other metabolic test on you, we're going to schedule your lab first thing in the morning. Don't have anything to eat. You can have your coffee, but you can't have cream, you can't have butter, you can't have sugar. You can drink it black. And most people are like, bleh. I like black coffee. So, but anyways, why can you have black coffee but not all of this stuff? Because guess what? Coffee doesn't have any calories. But anything you add to it, the sugar, that's a carbohydrate. Okay, it's a simple carbohydrate. You add cream, you're going to have some fats, but you're also going to have another carbohydrate, lactose, that comes in milk. Or if you add butter, like I do, okay, you're going to have fats in there. So that's going to be calories, and it's going to throw off your labs. So again, every time you eat, there's a multi-level process. I'm super simplifying this down. But every time you eat, you're breaking your fast. Every time you're not eating, you're fasting. Okay? So, biblical fasting. Okay? So now that we got the scientific part out, everybody fasts almost all the time because no one eats almost all the time. So again, guess what? Congratulations, you have fasted. Now, biblical fasting. You have two words used in the New Testament. There's a few others, different types. But basically the definition here is to fast, the usage, abstain from food. This one right here is used 20 occurrences. This one over here is used 6. I put some, all of them underneath it. Matthew chapter 4, chapter 6, chapter 9, Mark chapter 2, Luke chapter 5, Acts chapter 13. And then also the Hebrew, in the Old Testament, they did fasting as well. That's the Hebrew word for fasting. And yeah, the definition means fasting or a fast. And there's 26 occurrences using that word. So fasting is a very biblical thing. That word is used much more often than some other words that we might, think, oh, that's a really big thing, but it might not be used very often. So again, let's get into where we started off. There are 3 40-day fasts that we can read about that are pretty famous fasts. One is in Exodus chapter 34, verses 28 through 29. That's Moses. We have Elijah's fast in 1 Kings chapter 19, verses 7 through 8. And we have Jesus' 40-day fast, mainly covered in Matthew chapter 4, and then again in Luke chapter 4, and just the beginning of going out into the wilderness in Mark chapter 1. And it's not dealt with in John. So, a couple things. One of the criticisms of skeptics of the Scriptures, and again, these are the scientists, these are the educated people, these are the people that know more than you because they have alphabets after their name. PhD, this, that, and the other. Okay? So, some of the issues they have with this is some of the mistaken assumptions they have in what's transpiring in these fasts. One, let's read Moses' fast in Exodus chapter 34. Then the Lord said to Moses, write these words according to the tenor of these words. I have made a covenant with you and with Israel. So he was there with the Lord 40 days and 40 nights. He neither ate bread nor drank water. And he wrote on the tablets the words of the covenant, the Ten Commandments. Now, let's read all of them, then I'll make my comments. Elijah's chapter 40. Elijah's 40-day fast. 1 Kings chapter 19, verses 7 through 8. And the angel of the Lord came back the second time and touched him and said, arise and eat, because the journey is too great for you. So he arose and ate and drank, and he went in the strength of that food 40 days and 40 nights as far as Horeb, the mountain of God. Okay? And then Jesus' fast. And this is from Matthew chapter 4, verses 1 and 2. Then Jesus was led up by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. And when he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, afterward he was hungry. And in Luke chapter 4, it also adds this other little detail right here. In those days he ate nothing. Talking about the days of his fast. So, one of the things they say is, this is false because these three individuals did not drink anything for 40 days, so they would die. Okay, if you go typically beyond 3 days without water, any consumption of water, you will die. If it's extremely hot or extremely cold or you're using a lot of activity, you'll die even sooner. If you're already dehydrated, you'll die even sooner. Guess what? If you drink too much water, that can also kill you. It's called water intoxication. So, water is incredibly important. But, let's see here. One, I'll say, even if these three individuals had nothing to drink whatsoever, okay, during their 40-day fast, nothing, okay, they all serve the God, and one of them is the God, who created the universe, Jesus created the body that he's indwelling. Okay? God raises people from the dead. So even if these people had nothing to drink whatsoever during these 40 days, okay, it's miraculous. Don't try this at home. Okay? Now, the other thing is, what does it say here? He neither ate bread nor drank water. Now, that's very specific. He didn't eat bread nor drink water. So it doesn't technically say that he fasted, although this is accepted as a fast. But we don't know what he ate. What did he eat? Did he eat nothing? I don't know. I know he didn't eat bread. And it says he drank not water. Well, how many people here drink something other than water? Raise your hand. Okay, quite a few. I'm sure there's a few juice people in here as well. So I don't know. But it's very specific saying he neither ate bread nor drank water. So it's possible that he could have drank something. Also, it says here, so he rose and ate and drank. Okay, kind of like Mark chapter 16, verse 16, where it says, he that believeth and is baptized shall be saved, he that believeth not shall be condemned. But it doesn't say and not baptized, because you don't need to say that, because if you don't believe, then it's just a bath, not a baptism. Well, over here it says he ate and drank, but over here it just says he went in the strength of his food 40 days and 40 nights. So again, it doesn't specifically say that he didn't drink. So maybe he drank. I don't know. It's very possible. And again, it's also interesting here that Jesus was hungry. And it said he ate nothing. But it doesn't say anything about him not drinking anything. I find that interesting. Because I think that if I went 3 days without water and 3 days without food, I am going to take the water every single time. I've been in a desert. I've been where it's 140 degrees. I will take the water every single time. Okay? He wasn't thirsty. He was hungry. So, that's one criticism. It's not necessarily saying they didn't drink. But that is often a preconceived misunderstanding or assumption, a mistaken assumption, that they neither ate nor drank anything. We know that Jesus ate nothing. We know Elijah ate nothing. The food that he had is what he subsided off of for 40 days, 40 nights. Moses, well, we know he didn't eat bread nor drink water. If you've ever seen anybody on a keto diet and they go to a pizza restaurant, they'll eat everything on top of the pizza and leave the bread right there. It's kind of look, I've been on a ketogenic diet. I'm still low carb, but that just looks disgusting. People eating pizza with a fork. No, you just scraping it off the toppings. Well, they didn't eat the bread. So again, very specific. Another criticism about this is that 40 days without eating is certain to kill a human being. Let's see here. Oh, this is off the first point right here. This is again to the miraculous nature of God. And specifically Jesus regarding himself. In John chapter 4, he says, Jesus answered and said to her, whoever drinks of this water will thirst again. But whoever drinks of the water that I shall give him will never thirst. But the water that I shall give him will become in him a fountain of water springing up into everlasting life. Again, if Jesus didn't drink any water, he's the fountain of living water. Okay? He is a tall glass of everlasting life. Okay? He ain't going to die of dehydration. He's God. And then the second point in John chapter 6, verse 35, and Jesus said to them, I am the bread of life. He who comes to me shall never hunger, and he who believes in me shall never thirst. This is regarding the second point. People believe that if you go 40 days without food, you're going to die. Let me introduce you to a man that goes by Angus. He was a Scottish man who lived from 1939 to September 1990. That's a long life. Good long life. He fasted for 382 days, from June 1965 to July 1966. He lived off tea, coffee, sparkling water, and vitamins while living in his Tayport, Scotland home. He visited the Maryfield Hospital for medical evaluation. He was under medical evaluation the entire time. He got salt, he got potassium, he got vitamins, he got minerals. He was supervised. And over this course, he lost 276 pounds. And set the record for the longest length of the fast. And I think that's going to stand for a long time. Okay? 382 days. That's over a year. That's crazy. This happened in our lifetime. I was alive when this guy was alive. I was a young kid, but I was alive. And this guy wasn't eating. I was born in 1981. And from 1981 to 1990, this guy didn't eat while I was growing. He wasn't eating. It's amazing. It's not a miracle. The body is absolutely amazing. We can hold about 1,200 grams of glycogen in our muscle stores and in our tissues. But you know what? We can hold almost an unlimited supply. Unlimited power. We can have almost an unlimited supply of fat. I know, I've had quite a bit of it. And that fat can just stay there forever. Those fat cells don't go away. And they're ready energy on demand. So again, I don't know. Maybe Moses, maybe Elijah, maybe Jesus, all knowing they were going to go into this fast. Maybe they bulked up. Maybe they ate more carbs. Don't know. Don't know what they did before. But I know our God could sustain them. And I know that it's physically, humanly possible. So, the critics, nah. Now, we're also during a time called Lent. Is Lent the same thing as biblical fasting? A lot of people in certain spheres, the Catholic Church specifically, practice Lent. Lent goes between this time of this year. It's different every year because it's from the beginning of Ash Wednesday to Easter Sunday. I'm using those terms because that's what they use in the Catholic Church. So this year it's February 22nd to April 8th. There's also a little inconsistency depending on what particular denomination or what group you are. You start a little earlier, you start a little later. Some of them only do it during the weekdays, but they can do anything on the weekends. Some of them, can restrict it on the weekends, but, whatever. And guess what? They change all the time. When I was looking it up, here's this learnreligions.com. I'll put it up there, the quote from this. Lent typically, people that do Lent typically make a commitment to fast. Well, we can debate that. Or give up something. A habit like smoking, watching TV, swearing, or a food or drink such as sweets, chocolate, or coffee. I'm going to tell you, give up swearing 24/7. Okay, just don't do that for a particular time window. Do that for your life. And there's some other things too that they give up, like alcohol. Okay, yeah, give that up permanently. Meat, soda, pizza, sugar, online shopping, Netflix, TV, dining out, caffeine. That one would be hard for me. Okay, just saying, I know I'm addicted. Makeup. Hey, if I ever had to do that, I guess I could pick makeup because I don't put any on, so I'm good, right? Social media, gluten, music, video games, clutter, and unwanted toys. You can get rid of stuff, right? Do you know what that sounds a lot like to me? New Year's resolutions. It doesn't, I want to give up clutter? Hey, I can do that all the time, right? I'm just going to schedule this time to get rid of my junk. That's not, no. And look, historically, it started around 325. Guess what? There was no apostles living in 325. So there was nothing to be added to the church after the last apostle died. After it was finished. Okay, according to Jude, the faith was once for all delivered to the saints. So again, this happened after that. So again, no, Lent is not the same thing. Lent is anything you want it to be. I'm going to give up robbing liquor stores. I've never robbed a liquor store, so that one's pretty easy for me. You can fact check that. Whatever. I mean, no, it's not fasting. It's just anything you want it to be. And also, I've heard Christians, I've heard preachers of the gospel talk about, well, you can fast from anything. Just give up social media. I'm like, that sounds a lot like Lent. I'm like, I've never lived off social media. I've never gotten calories from social media. I'm going to call biblical things by biblical names, and I'm going to do biblical things in biblical ways. Fasting is food, is calories. Okay, that's why, again, go back to the medical. When you go to the medical, your doctor doesn't say, hey, you got a lab in the morning, make sure you don't get on YouTube in the morning. Make sure you don't post anything on Facebook after midnight. No, that's not a fast. By the way, don't post on Facebook after midnight. Blue light's bad for your circadian rhythm. But that's another topic for another day. I won't divulge on this, but the link is on there. 8 health benefits of fasting backed by science. This is on Healthline. You know what? This list keeps getting longer and longer every single year. They add a bunch more things on there. Promotes blood sugar control, reduces insulin, promotes better health by fighting inflammation, enhances heart health, boosts brain function. We're going to talk about that in the next slide. Aids in weight loss. It definitely will do with that. Increases growth hormone. That's phenomenal. Could extend longevity unless you fast permanently, and then it will hasten your death and demise. It may aid in even cancer prevention and increase in effectiveness in chemotherapy. A lot of cancer treatment facilities now are using fasting in their treatment. incorporated with it. And I put a bonus on there. Bonus number 9 induces various cellular repair processes, which I'm going to talk about on the next page. And I got some more links up there because I know this stuff and I cite this stuff. Here's the resources. Look it up for yourself. Do your own study. Do your own homework. After about 2 to 3 days of fasting, you increase your growth hormone by about 150 to 300%. You know what? You want to build muscle, you want to build good toned skin, you want to build strong ligaments, you want to build good bone, guess what? Growth hormone is going to help you do it. So there's a benefit in that. 2 days of fasting. 2 days of fasting can increase brain-derived neurotrophic factor. That is miracle growth for your brain, BDNF. It can increase it by 350%. I'll tell you what, that's why a lot of these CEOs in Silicon Valley and other different, big brain people that run around, they're constantly starving themselves. I mean, literally. And I'm going to say it, they're constantly starving themselves because they're going for this BDNF high. They're going for that super clarity of mind. And yeah, guess what? You do get it. I've got it. You fast for about 72 hours, you're like, man, I was a moron before today. My brain's never worked before. I found the on switch. It is amazing. 1 day of fasting starts increasing stem cell activation. Again, undifferentiated stem cells in your body. It means that they can just be anything. And you know what? 1 day of fasting gets those going. And they're like, hey, look, you know what? I need to be a neuron over here in the brain. Oh, I should be a heart cell over here. I should be a liver cell. Hey, I need to be a bone cell. These stem cells start saying, hey, let's get in the game. Put me in the game, coach. I want to play. We need to get this body ready to go. Also, fasting decreases mTOR. This is that mechanistic target of rapamycin. Okay? There's pros and cons to mTOR. mTOR spurs your body to make new cells. That's right. That's good, right? However, mTOR, when you're constantly driving up mTOR, creates lots of cell division, which can become cancerous cells. So sometimes it's good to put a brake on that mTOR and say, you know what, look, let's slow down the cellular divide. They have this new thing called telomeres. I won't get into that, but it shows you how your chromosomes are fraying at the end. And so you can have a telomere age. You can be 35, but your telomere age shows you're 50. Because, you're constantly dividing new cells. Also, it increases autophagy. Autophagy is a fancy word for self-eating. Cleaning up stuff that doesn't work. Those proteins that you got in your system that aren't working, those cells that are kind of not functioning, guess what? Your body goes, you know what? Hey, look. I can now clean you up. I'm going to break you down, make you into something new, make you a new cell. I'm going to use you as fuel. Cells even say, hey, look, guess what, body? I'm not working. Come get me. They signal that. And they signal self-apoptosis. They destroy themselves so they can give themselves back to the body, that the body can be healthy. It's also good for your immune system. There's a lot of people with autoimmune diseases, fibromyalgia. My wife has MS. There's a lot of good research out there that says, when you can do prolonged fasting, once, twice a month, that it actually helps your immune system regulate itself and repair and get rid of some of those dysfunctional T cells, B cells that are causing you the problems. Amazing, right? Not to mention, guess what? When you're not eating, you produce ketone bodies. Ketones are a wonderful fuel. Your body loves ketones. And it helps, ketones, they now found out it's more than just a fuel. It helps regulate the expression of activity of many proteins and molecules in your body. That's why it's so anti-inflammatory. So again, the science backs up, not eating is great. But you know what? All this magic happens while you're not eating, but then guess what? You need to rebuild. So you got to eat. So we're not saying that you can fast forever. You got to definitely re-eat. Eating's good too. So what circumstances did fasting occur in the Bible? Okay, I'm going to go through these pretty rapidly fast. During times of grief, we see here they mourned and wept and fasted until evening. This is regarding the death of Saul and Jonathan. During times of stress, we see Esther chapter 4, verse 16. I think they did Esther for the women's Bible class. And so, if you have any questions about Esther, you can ask Joe right afterwards. So times of stress where she said, fast for me, neither eat nor drink anything for 3 days, nights, or day. I will go to the king which is against the law, and if I perish, I perish. So she asked the nation to fast for her, pray for her, because she's about to go in to see her husband, who's also the king, who could have her killed. So that's kind of a stressful situation. So yeah, definitely fast during stress. During major decisions, Acts chapter 14, verse 23, when they appointed elders in every church, they prayed and fasted and commended them to the Lord. Okay? We see that they did a lot of fasting in the book of Acts. During times of repentance, in Joel chapter 2, verses 12 through 13, national repentance. Now therefore, says the Lord, turn to me with all your heart, with fasting, with weeping, and with mourning. So rend your heart and not your garments. Return to the Lord your God, for he is gracious and merciful. During times of worship. Yeah. Fasting also happens during worship. Acts chapter 13, verses 2 through 3. By the way, guess what? We have houses to eat in, so we're not all here eating. We're fasting while we're worshiping. Okay? While they were worshiping the Lord and fasting, the Holy Spirit said, set apart for me Barnabas and Saul for the work for which I have called them. Then after fasting and praying, they laid their hands on them and sent them off. So again, Acts chapter 13, verses 2 through 3, they were fasting. During the times you want to draw nearer to God, back to our scripture in Matthew chapter 4, then Jesus was led by the Spirit. Yes, he was led to be tempted, but he was led by the Spirit, and when he did that, he went into the wilderness and he fasted. He fasted for 40 days to draw himself closer to God. And in so doing, I don't know, my daughter could probably tell you more about this anime stuff because she likes Japanese culture. But there's this kind of memes like power level 10,000. Not that Jesus needed any help. But at this point, 40 days, he was mighty hungry, but his brain was a-working. Now again, he's God. He didn't need the BDNF. But that would have been interesting to know what his body was reading. I don't even know if he would have the same readings as we did. Just my scientific mind kind of going through the process. I'd like to know Jesus' testosterone level, for example. I just want to know. Kind of off point. I love this stuff, by the way. But anyways, Jesus says, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. What was Jesus feeding on? He was feeding on every word that proceeded out of the mouth of God. He was drawing closer to his Father. And I just find that amazing. That Jesus, the Son of God, Jesus who is God, the Word who became flesh, who created us, used fasting as a tool in his physical form of his body to get closer to his Father. And he fasted a lot. Again, I'm a Christian. I'm Christ-like. Alright. So, why are you going to fast? Hopefully I've convinced you to do that, but why are you going to fast? If it's for health concerns, do your own research. If you have any questions, concerns, consult an appropriate expert that you trust. Again, if you're diabetic, please eat your food and take your insulin. Okay? If you have other medical problems, please consult your physician. Consult a registered dietitian. Do your research. Ask questions. If you want second opinion, third opinion, by all means do that. If you want to talk to me, I'd be happy to talk to you. But again, I am not a physician. So, if it is for spiritual reasons, I say consult God and His Word. Now, over here we have both private, and then over here we have public examples. Okay, we talked about the public examples, 2 Samuel, Esther 4, Acts chapter 13, Acts chapter 14. Okay, worship, appointing elders, stress, grief. All these public examples. Repentance, public examples. But now, so many people want to focus on just this private example in Matthew chapter 6, and again, they extrapolate from this the wrong conclusion. Let's read it together. Matthew chapter 6, moreover, when you fast, do not be like the hypocrites, with a sad countenance, for they disfigure their faces, that they may appear to be men, appear to men to be fasting. Assuredly I say to you, they have their reward. But you, when you fast, anoint your head and wash your face, so that if you do not appear, so you do not appear to men to be fasting, but to your Father who is in the secret place, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you openly. Again, this is like one of the first, I think this is the first sermon I preached when I got here in February of last year, about praying, doing good deeds, and fasting. And again, how I said, we're not ninjas. We're not Christian ninjas. People are going to catch us in the act of doing good deeds. They're going to catch us in the act of praying. You know, when we go out in public and we're sitting and we're praying over our food, I got you. You're praying to the God up there, aren't you? You got me. The same thing with fasting. We're not ninjas. There's going to be times where they catch us. And again, kind of a funny aside point. This is when I honestly didn't really know much about fasting. But I was in the Army, and I would go to meet with all these Iraqis in the different villages and their homes and stuff like that. And they were very hospitable people when they weren't trying to kill you. And they would provide you these meals that they would make. And honestly, I didn't want to take their food. They didn't have much, number one. I didn't want to take it. I had food that I could eat back at my fob usually. And then also, I knew how they cooked it. And by the way, this is an interesting side fact. Saddam Hussein, when we were stationed in one of his palaces in Tikrit, the only people that remained on staff that were there when we got there were the cooks. And the cooks were Christians. And I thought that was fascinating. In fact, I got to supervise their Bible studies when they would come over and to our side of the fob. And so I asked him one time, I'm like, why did Saddam Hussein have Christian cooks? And they said all of his cooks were Christians. In fact, all the divisions, if they can get a Christian to be their cook, they're going to be their cook. I'm like, are you that good? And they were like, no. Because the Muslims say, you're a Christian, it's a sin for you to poison me. But it's not for a Muslim. Because you can certainly poison your enemy. Christians aren't supposed to do that. By the way, they made some really good bread. Oof. But anyways, I digress. That was a side point of a side point. So I didn't want to take their food. So I knew the definition of fasting. You're not eating. So I would tell them, no thank you, I'm fasting. Because that was the only culturally, socially acceptable way to deny somebody's hospitality. Otherwise, you might as well just lifted your foot up to them, showed them the bottom of your soul. That was bad. Don't do that. Or done something else. Called their mother a goat. Whatever. I don't know. It was bad. You accept their food. So everybody's like, oh, he's fasting, he's fasting, he's fasting. So we were at one of these gatherings in the city of Tikrit. And all these people, I'm sitting there in this big conference room, and all these Iraqis, different tribal leaders and people and whatnot are talking. And they keep pointing over to me, and they say some words, and I hear some of the words, and I know what they are. Mriki, doctor, which is American doctor, Sodiki, friend. I'm like, man, these guys are talking really good stuff about me, but there's a lot of stuff they ain't talking about me, so I don't know. So I bring in one of the interpreters. I'm like, hey, these guys keep pointing over to me, and they keep talking to me and referencing me. And they're like, yeah, they say that you're a holy man. And I'm like, holy man? Why do they think I'm a holy man? They're like, you're always fasting. You never eat, and you're not wasting away. So they believe it's miraculous. And I'm like, well, I am wasting away. But anyways, I digress. They saw fasting as a very, very appropriate thing. But yeah, that's also probably why I came back and weighed 165. But I wasn't doing this to be a hypocrite. I was fasting. I wasn't trying to pretend to be a faster. But I didn't want to take their food. And so I would tell them I'm fasting. Didn't make a big deal about it. I just let them keep their own food, so they wouldn't starve themselves. So again, somebody might be able to point out, well, you were telling people you were fasting, and I have reasons for that. I'm not a hypocrite. I actually was fasting. I wasn't pretending to fast. But anyway, so this is why this passage is here. Hypocrites do as I say, not as I do. They're faking. But he says, so people stop right there. Moreover, when you fast, do not be like the hypocrites. And like, there you go, don't fast. No, fast. Do fast, but don't appear as if trying to make yourself look like you're fasting even longer than you are. Again, do a 72-hour fast. Don't try to make it look like you're doing a 40-day fast. Okay? Don't walk through the grocery store saying, oh, I'd love to have this food. Oh, I'd love to have a cracker, but I can't because I'm fasting because I'm on the Lord's side. No, don't do that. You do that, you got your reward. You made people think that you're a holy man. Okay? But if you fast, we also know that if you fast, we can expect to be rewarded openly. Real quick, not all fasting is acceptable. Isaiah chapter 58, verses 2 through 12. Won't read the whole thing. But the question is, why are we fasting? They're asking, why are we fasting? Because we're not getting any benefits from it. We're going to be in captivity. But again, in fact, in the day of your fast, you find pleasure. This is the charge made against it. In your fast, you find pleasure and exploit all your laborers. Indeed, you fast for strife and debate, and to strike with the fist of wickedness. So these people were fasting. They were doing the outward sign. They were not eating the food. And they were thinking, okay, this is what God wants. God wants me to not eat. Pow, pow, pow. Take that, slave. I'm going to take your money, poor person. You know, is this the fast I've chosen? Okay, a day for a man to afflict his soul? Would you call this a fast and an acceptable day to the Lord? He says, is this not the fast I have chosen? To loose the bonds of wickedness, to undo the heavy burdens, to let the oppressed go free, and to break every yoke. Here's the scriptural application of this to us today. Matthew chapter 18, verses 21 through 35, the parable of the unforgiving servant. You wicked servant, I forgave you all your debt because you begged me. Should you not also have had compassion on your fellow servant, just as I had pity on you? And his master was angry and delivered him to the torturers until he should pay all that was due him. So my heavenly Father also will do to each of you from his heart if he does not forgive his brothers. So again, what we're saying here, I tell you what, it doesn't matter. You can do a 40-day fast every year. But if you are holding on to your brother's sins, if you won't forgive other people, if you're a miserable person that hates other people, that fast is doing nothing for you but making you lose some weight, giving you some BDNF, and improving your blood glucose, getting some growth hormone. It ain't building your soul. It ain't getting you closer to God. So fasting by and of by itself is just a health benefit. For that, go for a walk. What is your perception of fasting? Did anything change? Do you think you'll try fasting? If so, some tips. And these are from me. Start slow. If you have not gone more than 12 hours without eating in your entire life, don't start off with a 72-hour fast. Don't do it. You will pass out. Okay, you will become hypoglycemic. Okay, when you start losing all your glycogen, you're also going to lose a lot of water. Okay, which means you're going to lose a lot of salt, a lot of potassium, a lot of chloride. You're going to get heart palpitations. You're going to feel horrible. You're going to get a thing called the keto flu, which is not contagious. It just makes you feel like you have the flu, okay, because you've lost all your electrolytes. Start slow, okay? If you've only gone, 8 hours, the longest you've ever slept is as long as you've ever gone without eating, push for 12. If you've gone 12 hours without eating, push for 16. If you've gone 16 hours, that's a full day awake, push for 24. Okay? Sleep on it. There you go. You got it done. 24 hours. Okay? Then refeed. Wait a while. Do it again. Let your body get used to it. If you haven't gone on a run, I wouldn't say, hey, you haven't ran in 10 years. Go out and do 12 miles. That wouldn't work out too well for anybody here. Same thing with fasting. This is hard work on your body. It needs to go through a lot of processes to be able to figure it out. Stay busy. Don't pick a day to fast when you ain't got nothing to do but lay on the couch and watch Netflix. Because you will want to eat all day long, and it's going to be hard. So pick a day to fast when you've got a busy day at work. Pick a day to fast when you've got the kids at home and you're going to clean the house for spring cleaning. Pick a day to fast when you're going to be doing lots of stuff. because that staying busy will help you get through it. Learn to trust your body. Back to the first one, start slow. Learn to trust your body. You'll start feeling what it's like when you just got the ghrelin going. By the way, you got two hormones, ghrelin and leptin. Leptin is the satiety hormone. Ghrelin is the hunger hormone. It's I think they probably got the name ghrelin because it makes your stomach growl. Okay? Makes you hungry, right? You wait about 15, 20 minutes, it goes away. It might come back in a couple hours and then it goes away. But that's not saying you're starving. It's not saying you're about to pass out. It just says you got a rumbling in your tummy like poo and you want to eat. Okay? Learn to trust your body though. If you feel lightheaded, you feel heart palpitations, you feel sick, trust your body. Eat something. Okay? Eat something. Okay? Trust your body. You'll learn how your body feels. Don't be too hard on yourself. If you say, I'm going to go 48 hours without eating, and then you need to eat, hey, look, it's okay. It's totally okay. You were like, I'm going to go for 40-hour fast, and then, your brother in Christ says, hey, can you come over and have a meal with me? Don't say, no. Go, okay, yeah, I can do that, and then have the meal. Or your child comes over to visit. Say, hey, Dad, I'm hungry. Can you grill me some steaks? Well, no, I'm not, because I'm fasting, so you're going to be hungry too. No! Don't be too hard on yourself. You don't have to do it. We don't make oaths. We don't be like, hey, I pledge that I'm going to do this, God, and I'm going to make it happen. Don't do that. Just fast when you want to fast, for the reason you want to fast, and don't be too hard on yourself if you don't make it. You get hungry, you need to eat. Okay? You need to do something else, take care of somebody, do that. Refeed slowly. Now this is more important if you go beyond 48 hours. 24-hour fast, not that big a deal. If you go 72 hours or beyond that, or you're above 65, or you got health problems, you can get something called refeeding syndrome. Where you could, if you go hypoglycemic and then you start pounding the carbs, you're going to get really sick. You can lose your electrolytes, and you could potentially die. Okay, that is the real thing. Refeeding syndrome. Look it up. Okay, but so when you start and you refeed slowly. Start with lean proteins. It does have a little bit of an insulin spike, but not very much. Progress to fats, almost no insulin spike, and then to carbohydrates. That's the medical. Okay, I'm putting that out there for you. Here's the spiritual. Increase your prayers. Increase your scripture reading. Increase your spiritual endeavors. Guess what? Pick a day to fast and say, you know what? I'm going to, every time I'm hungry, every time my ghrelin goes, eat me, I am going to take time to pray. Every time I'm like, man, I don't know if I can do this because I really want some gummy bears. Okay? Read some scripture. Take that day and say, you know what? I'm going to write some cards to some Christians I haven't written cards to in a while. I'm going to make some phone calls to Christians I haven't made phone calls to. Okay? By all means, be spiritually active. John chapter 6, verses 27. Do not labor for the food which perishes, but for the food which endures to everlasting life, which the Son of Man will give you, because God the Father has set his seal on him. That's the conclusion of the whole matter. To eat, to not to eat. That is the question. Whether you do or you don't, you can do it under the Lord. You can eat anything and everything under the sun. Okay? We even have man-made synthetic compounds that I wouldn't recommend eating, like gummy bears. But you can eat them. Your body doesn't know what to do with them sometimes. Usually puts them someplace you don't want to see them in the mirror. But you can. You can eat anything under the sun. I'm not moralizing food. It doesn't matter how long you fast, if you're not doing it for the right reason, or if you don't have any behavior change, it's not going to do you any good. You can't, there's not like these prescribed hoops like you have in other religions. Well, if you do this, you attend this location, you go to this location once in your life, you do this 5 times a day, you take these sacraments, you're golden. You can do anything else you want. And then once a year, you give up swearing and punching people. No! That's not scriptural. You give your entire life to God. Now that means if you're going to eat, eat. It means you're going to take time without eating, take time without eating. You do that anyways. And again, there could be some benefits to it. So the two things, let's not belittle fasting, just like we wouldn't belittle prayer. It serves a purpose. It does bring us closer to God. There is health benefits to it, which again helps us with our depression and anxiety. It helps us put our confidence and faith and reliance upon God, that He's going to sustain us. Lets us become in a more right mindset to be humble and spiritual and reliant upon God for His sustainment. And again, let's not belittle that, but let's also understand it's not food that sustains our life. I know I said you need to have substrates of food, otherwise you're going to die, just like oxygen. But you know what sustains my life? God. You know what sustains your life? God. Because if it wasn't for Christ and His love and His patience and His mercy, He could come back right now and bring down judgment on this planet, and it would be deserving. And there would be a lot of people that would miss out on everything. They would miss out on the Christ. But He holds on because He loves us. And this is that opportunity. This is that opportunity that if you have strayed away and you're a Christian, you need to make your life right, you can come forward, we can pray for you, we can love on you. I'll pray for you, I'll fast with you, whatever we need to do to get you through whatever you need to get through. Okay? And if you're not a Christian, this is your opportunity to become one. And you can be baptized and wash away your sins, calling on the name of the Lord, and He'll add you to the church, the ecclesia, the called out. You'll be a part of His kingdom. You'll have His grace. You'll have Him as your mediator. And when you stand before the throne, Jesus will say, enter into my rest, good and faithful servant. He'll vouch for you. He'll say, Father, this is one of mine. So again, if we can help you with that, come forward now as we stand and as we sing.
Come to Jesus, He